We shall move on to the next presenter, who is Suhas.
Sir. Hello, sir. Good morning.
Morning, Suhas. You
Yeah,
can share
I'm
your
just
screen.
share my presentation.
Yep.
Yes, sure. Okay. Can everyone see my presentation?
Yes, I can see. Hello? I can see, but I cannot hear you now. Suhas?
Yes, I'm able to hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you
Yeah,
asking,
I
can you
can.
hear me? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you see my presentation?
I can see your presentation. Yep,
Okay.
you may
So
start.
my presentation is on the game-based captcha. So let's have a look at the problem statement. My problem statement is that there are a lot of services on the web, and these services can be misused actually by a bot or a script. So basically, a script can be used to, for example, create multiple email accounts. Then these email accounts can be used for spam or malicious purposes or other not very good purposes. For this, we developed a test known as Captcha. However, these tests are quite boring and they can get very annoying very quickly. Right? For example, let's have a look at some Captcha versions that used to exist a couple of years ago. Initially, Captcha tests used to be basic and included asking the user to read some misaligned and distorted text. Another type of Captcha was to get the user to add, subtract, or multiply two small numbers. So this is the example of that kind of Captcha. In this kind of Captcha, we have a text box and a picture of a text written in some very dirty font. We have to identify what text is written, enter it into the text box, and we are done. Now we have a new version of Captcha known as Recaptcha, which was developed by Google in 2007. This is because the previous version of Captcha was able to be cracked by longer they are of Captcha. This is not very good, so we develop a new Captcha like this. There was basically an image, like in this case the image is of a turkey, and the user has to select all the images which have a turkey in them, which is this one, and this one, and then they have to click on the verify button, and that is it. They will get the picture of the turkey, and they will pass the captcha test, and they can access the web services. So far, artificial intelligence is not able to crack this reCAPTCHA, but it may be able to do so in the near future because some of our friends, as previously previously we saw, they are developing AI that can identify objects. So they can actually look at the picture of the turkey and select all the turkeys in the picture. So yeah, they can. There is technology that can do it, but it's not very widespread. Yes. Next, let's have a look at some advancements in reCAPTCHA. In later versions of reCAPTCHA, the software would simply trace user movements. So this one is even smarter. This is sort of like a hidden captcha. This will not actually ask the user to enter anything or to select a pictures or anything. It will just trace user movements such as mouse and typing speed. So it will see how fast the user is moving his mouse and how he is moving. So for example, if the person moves the mouse in a very straight line, like a perfect line, the reCAPTCHA immediately identify the user, it might be a bot, right? Or if the user is typing very quickly, like maybe 400 words per minute, which is humanly impossible, the system would know it is a bot doing the typing. Now let us look at game-based captchas. Some game-based captchas have already been developed. My aim is to develop a new game-based captcha. So reCAPTCHA was easy to use and convenient, which is why recently all web services implemented CAPTCHAs. However, this is annoying for the user because they have to complete a CAPTCHA test every time they access a web page. They want to create a mail account, complete CAPTCHA. Want to create a social media account, complete the CAPTCHA. For this to be less boring, we can implement some games that can identify humans and bots. For example, this one, it says put food on your plate. So this is a sort of game-based captcha. So what has to be done is that the food has to be dragged onto the plate. That's it. And then the captcha test would know whether it's a bot or a human. Now let us have a look at the NIM game, which is my proposed game for the game-based captcha. NIM is a mathematical strategy game where there are two players and each player takes their turn by removing a matchstick from the same row. The last player to remove a matchstick is the winner. In my previous progress video, which is progress video 3, we covered some more about NIM, and in progress video 2, we also covered I also did a walkthrough of NIM. So those videos are on YouTube actually. Now let us have a look at some of the software that we can be using to build this captcha. The captcha is for web-based applications and services, so it has to be developed using a web programming language. For this, we have to use languages such as HTML and JavaScript. If animations are required, which they are in game-based captchas, HTML5, which is a more recent technology, can be used. Let's have a look at JavaScript. JavaScript, which is also known as JS, is a web programming language. JS is most of the time used alongside HTML and CSS to create a interactive web page. Now let's look at HTML and HTML5. HTML or Hypertext Markup Language is the standard markup language for web pages. HTML5 is a sort of extension or updated version of HTML with the capability to structure and present content on web browsers. Now let us look at Captcha Security. For Captcha tests to be useful, they should not be able to be breached. In other words, they should not be able to be cheated on. There are several methods that can be used to breach a Captcha test. To prevent this from happening, appropriate mitigation techniques should be implemented. Let us have a look at the first kind of attack, which is known as a random guessing attack. It's also known as brute forcing. This basically means that the user randomly enters answers into the text box or randomly selects images and hopes for them to be correct. To prevent this, appropriate measures must be applied. A method that can be used is implementing a try limit. This means that if you enter a wrong answer a number of times, the captcha test is reset. For example, if I enter the wrong answer 3 times, then I have to do a new test. The old tests I cannot do anymore. It can be like that. So the user cannot cheat on the captcha using this kind of attack. Another threat to captcha is AI. With computers getting more powerful day by day, artificial intelligence becomes more smarter. Nowadays, we use a lot of artificial intelligence, such as Google Assistant and Siri. Some of our friends, as I just mentioned, are developing artificial intelligence-based applications that can identify objects. Therefore, most captcha methods which are used today, such as the image identification, will be obsolete in a few years because bots will easily be able to figure them out. This is what happened with the text-based and math-based captchas. Bots were able to use artificial intelligence to solve the questions, and this resulted in those tests being obsolete. So this will also happen with captchas we use today. Before this happens, we should develop newer versions of captcha. In the previous progress video, we saw a playthrough of the NIM game. In this progress video, we shall look at the major security flaw. Let's have a look at another major security flaw in CAPTCHAs, which is known as CAPTCHA databases. On the internet, there are several websites which allow people to solve CAPTCHA tests. This is actually a more malicious sort of thing. Let's look at why. The answers to these tests are stored in the website's database. So basically what happens is, there are websites on the internet where I can go, log in and solve CAPTCHAs. for money. Basically, they will pay me to solve captchas. Then those captchas they will store in a database, the captcha answers. And the next time the captcha comes up, they will use my answers to answer. This database can then be used to bypass the captcha test. Such websites typically provide the user with some benefits, like monetary. There are websites which pay money for captcha solving. So for example, we have solvecaptcha.com and 2captcha.com. Solvecaptcha.com is like this. It it on the front page itself, it describes an online captcha typing job, and it says that to work uh to it basically says that there are lots of images that cannot be recognized, and there are people who are ready to pay for the recognition. We made a service suitable for more customers and workers, where we collect images from customer and send them to you in a simple interface where you need to enter the text correctly according to the shown images. You will earn funds. It basically says that you will earn money for every correct captcha. Let's have a look at 2captcha.com, which is also quite similar, but here it shows the rate. It starts from 50 cents, 50 cents USD, or about 2 ringgits for 1000 solved captchas. So this actually does not pay very much, but the more you do this, it will start to pay higher. So initially you have 50 cents for 1000 solved captchas, then it will go 60, 70, 80, then $1 like that. Now let us look at a countermeasure that we can use to counter these kind of websites. First thing is the legal way, where we can have an act or a law which makes it illegal for captcha answers to be stored in a database. This is similar to DMCA, or Digital Millennium Copyright Act, which makes that which makes it impossible for people to download and store copyrighted content. Is also known as pirating. It is no it This act is basically used to make pirating illegal. So a similar act can be bought, like the Captcha Protection Act or something, or the No Storage of Captcha Act, which makes the storing of captcha answers illegal. Another trick which can be implemented is ensuring that each test is unique. In other words, we can just ensure that each test is different from the last. So the answers can never be stored in a database because we always get new questions. Now let's look at another security flaw, which is accessibility settings. Accessibility is an important requirement of captchas. People with disabilities, people who are blind, who are deaf, who cannot hear, must also be able to access the web-based services. For this, there will be an accessibility button on captchas. When this accessibility button is pressed, the user will be directed to a new captcha. So we have an alternate captcha. For example, with Recaptcha, the user is provided with an audio test. Rather than having to identify the images, AI can simply click this button and then use the audio test to pass the captcha. This leaves room for several vulnerabilities. Thank you very much for uh, listening to me. If there are any questions, I would please ask them.
Hello. Thanks, Suhas.
Yes.
Dr. Thomas, do you have questions for Suhas?
Thank you. Good morning, Suhas. Nice presentation.
Thank you.
I will prefer if you show part of your progress video to explain better about the name that you have
Oh,
explored.
of course, of course, of course, of course. Let's
We
have
are
a look
big,
at the
yeah.
let's have a look at the playthrough of NIM. So let me share my screen. Let me open the presentation first, and then share my screen. Yeah. Okay. Uh, let me open my progress video. Yes. Okay. So this is my okay. So let us look at a NIM game. So this is the Why? Wait. Okay, yeah. Yeah. Can you hear the voice in the background? I think I need
I
to.
No.
think you can
No.
you
Okay.
can
I
you
think I need
can
to clear narrations. Yeah, and clear the timing. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. Okay. This is the starting, the round zero of the NIM game, where we have this kind of an arrangement of matchsticks. Then let's say we have two players, Franklin and Michael. So what we do is let us simulate a playthrough between them. So let's say Franklin takes two matchsticks from row one. Now this is the current stage. Then Michael takes three matchsticks from row three. So like this. Then Franklin takes one matchstick from row two. It basically we are just doing the we're just playing the game. We take one matchstick at a time. Remember, we can take matchsticks only from the single row. So if let's say Franklin takes a matchstick from the second row, he has to take another matchstick from the second row itself. He cannot take it from the third row. Like that. And then we just continue playing. Takes one matchstick each. Then Franklin takes one matchstick. Then the row one is empty. And Michael takes one matchstick, and then like this, and then in the end Franklin takes the last matchstick and he empties the entire board. Because Franklin is the last person to remove a matchstick and there are no more matchsticks left on the board, Franklin is the winner. This kind of a game can be played with the user to determine if it is a bot or a legitimate human.
Okay, thank you. So,
Yes.
can you try to connect this game? Why do you choose this game? And maybe relate this with your explanation about maybe some of the security issues, for example, in Captcha.
Yeah. Okay. This game uh, can actually be generated at random, so it solves the problem of storing captchas. Is a pretty big problem actually. For example, Recaptcha, it needs to find images. There are only a limited number of images, but in this game we can make thousands of combinations of matchsticks. Like, not there is no limit on the number of matchsticks we can put in a row. So in this case I put 3, 4, 5. Maybe we can put 5, 6, 7, like that, right? So there are multiple different combinations which solve the problem of storing captchas. Uh, Another
Okay.
problem is, yeah, yes sir,
Yes.
yes sir.
Another one. Yes.
Another problem it solves is the boredom, because this is a mathematical strategy game. This one needs the person to actually think something, um, actually think of a strategy or something. So this can make the captcha less boring to complete.
Okay. Thank you very much. I think
Yes.
that's all from me.
Okay, sir. Yeah.
hello Suhas.
Yes, sir.
So okay so far have you implemented any of the games or the
No,
captcha?
not yet, sir. Not yet. I plan
Okay.
to do it during my final year project, semester two.
Okay. Okay, that's fine. But so what method you are going to do? Use, for example, what software or yeah?
I
Can
will
you
be
tell me
using
about?
JavaScript and HTML5. JavaScript I will use for the backend. HTML5 I will use to create the matchsticks and the orientation, etc.
Okay. Do you have experience in this?
I have experience in HTML, but I'm quite new to JavaScript.
Uh,
I have some basic, but I am not
mm,
very experienced in JavaScript.
okay. So so you are going to create a website and then um, test your captcha on it, lah, right?
Yes, yes, sir.
So you are going to create how many games in the captcha or just one? For example, the name.
Yes. I think I will create just one for now.
Okay. Okay.
Later, if time permits, and I have the time to develop one more, then of course I will like to
Okay.
go for one more. The
So
more the better.
Suhas, um, in your FYP tool, right? Instead of
Yes.
just creating the game and then you're happy with that, so you
Yes.
may also need to um, test in different scenarios such that how when will it fail? Okay. So
Okay. Yeah.
whether you can encounter that issue or not. Okay, not just
Okay.
I
Okay.
create something and then I'm happy lah. Just to tell you.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I understand.
You should also read the marking rubric maybe to see what is expected lah in your FYP2,
Okay.
which is the
Okay.
final.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Any other questions from other lecturers?
Yeah, I got one question, Suhas.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I want to ask regarding your round zero game, right? You say
Yes.
you want your users to be interactive and have
Yes.
a. Do you go for any look into any research that mentions that okay, this kind of thinking is a lot of user would like it or don't like it?
Not really actually. I have not looked into such research, but I think it will be more interesting because most people love to develop strategies. I can actually look into it during my FYP2 if required.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Any other questions from the lecturers or students? Um, since there's none, then we move on. Thanks, Suhas. Then we move
Okay,
on
sir.
to
Thank you.
Yogian.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,